Hi guys, welcome to CADS 3053, module number 23. In this module, we're going to extend our discussion about merchandise assortment plans by talking about a new term called model stock plans. Especially in this module, in module number 23, we're going to focus on fashion merchandise model stock plans. Whereas in next module, module number 24, we're going to talk about the basic merchandise model stock plans. The assortment planning for fashion merchandise requires the consideration of the characteristics of fashion merchandise. Fashion merchandise refers to the type of merchandise items that are affected greatly by fashion changes. So their demands tend to change week by week, month by month, season by season, year by year, quickly. So therefore, the demand for fashion items high for a short period of time and then can plummet afterwards. Therefore, due to this characteristic, fashion merchandise assortment planning usually aims at breaking the seasonal or quarterly dollar budget plans into actual number of units and SKUs planning. And this planning has to be done at the classification levels, not at the individual merchandise item level, because for each individual merchandise item, the demand can change, and so you can't really plan at the individual item level, but it has to be done at the classification level. Fashion merchandise assortment planning is usually done in two-step procedure. First step is model stock planning, and the second step is the assortment distribution planning. And both process will be done at the classification level. Let's talk about how to set up a model stock plan for fashion merchandise, which is the first step of fashion merchandise assortment planning. The model stock plan is the process of identifying the assortment factors and the number of levels within each assortment factor to be used for the assortment plan. And as I said earlier, a model stock plan must be set up at an item classification level, which means like jackets and pants, skirts and sweaters. For each item classification, you're going to have a model stock plan. This means that the buyer needs to determine what assortment factors must be used and how many levels are used for each assortment factor for each classification. Remember that for fashion merchandise assortment planning, we don't plan assortment at the specific item level. It has to be in the item classification level. The process of determining the assortment factors to be used for merchandise planning, as well as the number of levels in each assortment factor, help the buyer balance the assortment factors relative to the customer demands, as well as keeping the assortment factors in balance with the assortment volume so that the assortment variety can be controlled. So what I just said can probably be best understood by looking at some examples. So let's take a look at an example. What you're seeing now on the screen is the model stock plan that I actually used when I worked as a buyer for Max Mara, which is an Italian brand. So this was actually set up for a flagship store that they had. So for this brand, or this specialty retail brand, this was the fall season model stock plan, and the emphasis of this brand was really on the coats. So you see a lot of the open to buy budget, which is the second to the right column, says retail parenthesis $. That's the open to buy at retail. And you see that the big portion is devoted to long coats and half coats and petticoat coats and those kind of coats categories, as well as suits. So you can see that that's their strength, right? The style, color, size, these three columns indicate that we decided that these three things, style, color, size, will be the assortment factors for which the the assortment planning is going to be done for this store, right? So for each item class, so for example, for long coat, you have 13 style. Each of the style will come in on average of 1.1 colors, which means some of the styles will come in 2 or 3 colors, but others will come in only 1 color. So overall, on average, it's going to be like a 1.1 colors. And the size, it will come in 5 different sizes, right? So this model stock plan chart shows all the kinds of assortment factors that the store uses, as well as for each assortment factor, how many levels are going to be existing, right? And in the column after the assortment factors, you see the SKUs column. So this indicates number of SKUs, which means the variety for each classification. And you can see that, and we know that we can calculate this number of SKUs or variety by multiplying the number of levels in each assortment factors, right? So for example, for long coat, 13 styles times 1.1 colors times 5 sizes, it came up to 70 SKUs. And the units column show the volume for each classification. The way this volume or the number of units were calculated for each classification was using the top-down approach, which starts from the open to buy dollar amount, and knowing the ARP, average retail price, you can divide up the open to buy by ARP to calculate your number of units. Although this chart itself doesn't show the ARP, but that was used to come up with this number of units. The retail column is the open to buy at retail. Okay. Then finally, we can calculate the VSA by knowing the variety and volume figures. VSA is the volume divided by variety, as we learned in the previous module. So you divide the number of units by the number of SKUs for each classification, and that way you can calculate the VSA, which is how many units you want to carry on average per SKU, volume per the average volume per SKU in the assortment. This VSA can be compared with the diversity index chart, which shows how diverse or focused the assortment is in each classification given the VSA. So overall, for example, for the long coat class, the plan is to carry 13 styles of long coat in the average of 1.1 colors per style and 5 sizes per style color, and that gives the variety of 70 SKUs, and it's going to be using the budget of the open to buy of $123,161, and that leads to the unit calculation for 127 units. So that's the store is going to carry 127 units of long coats overall. So in this manner, you can see that the model stock plan was calculated for each of this item class, and you do this for long coat, half coat, padding coat, suit, blouses, everything else. Then eventually you can have the total. So how many styles and how many SKUs and how many units and for how many dollars of budget you are planning the entire store's stock. Okay, so this slide shows a simpler example of model stock plan. Let's say for bottom categories. In this store, there are 3 classifications: shorts, jeans, and pants. And for each of these classifications, they divide a sets of model stock plan. It says for shorts, for example, 5 styles, 6 colors, and 7 sizes. And this decision leads to the variety of the assortment by timing the number of levels in each of the assortment vectors. So 5 times 6 times 7 leads to the 210 SKUs as the variety of the assortment. And then the volume plan is given. So for shorts, there are going to be 480 units that the buyer will purchase for shorts, for the short classification. Once we set up the model stock plan in this manner by determining the kinds of assortment factors that the buyer wants to use, and in each assortment factor, how many levels will exist, then the next step of the assortment planning is assortment distribution, which includes the allocation of the volume, so the number of units, across the assortment factors and their levels. We do this by estimating the relative rate of sale of the various assortment factors and their levels within the factors. For example, in terms of the size assortment factor, let's say the buyer decided that the assortment would come with 3 different sizes, small, medium, large, and then through the model stock plan, and then in the stage where the buyer does the assortment distribution, maybe he or she will decide that, okay, we are going to carry, she's going to carry a small 15% small size and 55% of the medium size and the 30% of large size. If that is determined, that means that the buyer thinks the medium is going to be the most popular size in this store, and the small, if you compare the small 15% and large 30%, that could basically mean that the buyer believes that size large sells twice as many as size small. So you think about these proportions or the rates of sale across the different levels of each assortment factor, and you determine these percentages, the distribution percentages, and that's the step what we call assortment distribution. All right, so let's take a look at an example of the assortment distribution. In 2 slides ago, we took a look at a very simple model stock plan for shorts, pants, and jeans. And for shorts, the model stock plan was showing that there were going to be 5 styles, 6 colors, and 7 sizes, which lead to the variety of 210 SKUs. And for all shorts, the volume is going to be 480 units. So let's say we're continuing with this classification, so the short item classification, and we are decided to do the assortment distribution. Okay, so the 5 styles could be like a flat front, a pleated front, walking or hiking, biking shorts. And then the 7 sizes can include size 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. And let's say the buyer plans that, okay, 6 colors will include a white, black, navy, red, tan, and hunter. Okay, so then the assortment distribution part will be for each of these styles and sizes and colors, determining the rates of sale or the proportions among those levels, right? So for example, for a style, 20% of the entire shorts will have to be a flat front, and 10% will pleated front, and 25% of walking shorts, 30% hiking shorts, and 15% biking shorts, etc. And for sizing, you can kind of see that size 9 and size 11 are going to be the most popular sizes, followed by size 13 and 15 and 5, 7, and then the size 3 will be the least popular one. In terms of the color, let's say the buyer believes that white will be the most popular one, 25%, followed by black and tan, 20%, and navy, which is 15%, and red and hunter are going to be the least popular sizes with a 10% ratio. So in this manner, the buyer plans the assortment distribution for each of the assortment factors. Then, given the assortment distribution plan, you can now calculate the volume per each level of the assortment factor. So for example, for style, for assortment factor, you had 5 different levels, right? Flat, pleat, walk, and hike, and bike. then for each of these levels, you can calculate the volume, the number of units that you need to buy, right? So, for example, the total volume, based on the model stock plan, we know the total volume was 480 units. Then out of the 480 units, 25% should be walking shorts. So that means 25% times 480, which will be 120 units. You can do the same thing for every level of the style. So the flat front shorts will be 96 units because 20% of 480 will be 96, right? You can do the same thing for the rest of the styles. So let's try to calculate volumes per each of the sizes here, okay? So let's pause the video and let's work on the calculation of the number of units volume per size. Right, so we had to do exactly the same thing, right? So the percent times distribution percent times the total volume. So in this case, 480 times 5% for size 3, which is 24 units, and 10% of 480 will be size 5 and size 10, size 7 and size 15, so there will be all 48 units. And then size 9 and size 11 are 25%, so 25% times 480, which is 120. So that means that for size 9 and size 11, we're going to buy 120 units. And of course, we can do the same kind of calculations for the colors. So for each color, how many units we are going to need to carry. So once we know the assortment distribution of each assortment factor, then we can utilize that information to determine the assortment volume per SKU. And this SKU basically means that the actual specific SKU, like with the specific color, size, style, price, brand, whatever it is, all the assortment factors that you're using. We're looking at the specific unique combination of all these assortment factors. This is not the same as the average volume per SKU in the assortment, which is VSA that we talked about before. That is like an average volume per SKU, but this one is the actual volume that you want to purchase for that particular specific SKU. And we can calculate volume per the specific SKU by first identifying the distribution percent for each level of the assortment factor that constitute that SKU, that particular SKU. So like for that particular style, color, size, price, brand, what percent of the total open to buy or the total volume has to be allotted for that particular style, color, size, price, brand, etc. And once you have the string of percentages, then you multiply all of the percentages and then multiply that by the volume, the total volume, or the open to buy volume that you have. So that volume could be the number of units or the open to buy dollar. Then you can actually have the answer for how many units or how many dollars you can actually spend to buy those units for that particular specific SKU. All right, so let's work on an example problem to calculate volume per specific SKU based on what I just said. So let's continue with the example model stock plan, assortment plan that we have taken a look at earlier for shorts. So now that we have all the assortment distribution plan for the style, color, size, assortment factors of the shorts item class, what if we wanted to calculate the number of units, the volume for the specific SKU, which is the hiking shorts size 9 in color black? Okay, so the style, color, size is very specific now, and for that SKU, how many units do I need to buy? Okay, For us to be able to do that, we have to first identify the string of percentages that correspond to this SKU, specific SKU, right? So how many percent of the total volume has to be the hiking shorts? How many percent has to be size 9? How many percent of the total volume has to be color black? Once we have the string of percentages, and then multiply them by the total volume available for all shorts, which in this case it were 480 units, right? So go back to the one of the previous slides that showed the assortment distribution plan for shorts items, the example assortment distribution plan chart that I showed earlier, and find what percentage was allotted to the hiking shorts inside the size 9 and color black. Okay, then you can bring those numbers in to calculate the volume for this SKU. Okay, let's pause the video here and work on the problem. All right, so from the previous slide, we found the assortment distribution chart and know that the hiking shorts has to be 30% of the total shorts class, and 25% was size 9 and 20% was color black, right? So you multiply the total volume of shorts class, the shorts class, the 480 units, times 30% times 25% times 20%. And that will lead to 7 units. So that means you need to buy only 7 units of hiking shorts, the black hiking shorts in size 9. All right, let's practice one more time. So for the same short assortment distribution plan, let's calculate number of units for the flat front shorts, size 11 in white. We can do it in the same manner. Just go back to the chart, so assortment distribution chart, and find those string of percentages for flat front and size 11 and white color. Then you can come up with the volume for this SKU, right? Let's pause the video and work on it. All right, so the total number of units available for shorts were 480 units times flat front has to be 20% of them, so time that by 20%, and size 11 was 25%, and the color white was 25%, right? So that's 480 times 20% times 25% times 25%, which is a total of 6 units. So you can buy 6 units of this SKU. All right, let's work on another example. Let's say we have an assortment distribution plan for men's dress shirts as shown in this chart. Okay, so we're using 3 assortment factors: the neck size, collar, and the sleeve length. And there are 7 different neck sizes. We are actually 6 different neck sizes we're working on. And there's going to be 7 different collars, and there are 2 sleeve lengths, short versus long. Okay. And the percentage distribution that we have come up with are given right below each of the assortment factor. Now, if this is the case, okay, given this chart, let's try to find the open to buy dollar that we can allot to each specific SKU. Okay, so for example, let's say the open to buy at cost for all dress shirts for $5,610. And let's first find out what would be the amount of dollar that we can spend for that specific SKU of size, neck size 15.5, color number 1 in long sleeve. Okay, so that means we first need to find out the string of percentages that correspond to this SKU, right? The size, color, and the sleeve lengths. And then we time that by the total open to buy to know how many dollars of the total open to buy we can actually use to buy merchandise for this SKU. So we found that from the previous slide, the size, neck size 15.5 will be 30% of the total dress shirts assortment. and color number 1 was 15%, and long sleeve was 82.5%. And so we multiply all these string of percentages and time that by the total open to buy for all the dress shirts, 5,610. That gives us the amount of $208.27 that we can spend to buy the dress shirts corresponding to this SKU. Now, if the unit cost price, so the just average unit cost for a dress shirt is $10.50. If that was the case, then with this money that is allotted to this SKU, how many units, okay, can we actually buy for this SKU? We can answer this question by dividing the model stock dollar that is allotted to this SKU, $208.27, and divide that by the average unit cost, which is $10.50. That led to 19.84 units, right? So that's kind of around 20 units we can buy. So overall, this calculation gives us an idea that this buyer, according to this assortment distribution plan, this buyer will need to buy around 20 units, 20 units of size 15.5, collar number 1, and long sleeve by spending around $208.27 at the cost value. All right, so let's work on another example when we're looking at the same assortment distribution plan for dress shirts. It's the same open to buy, but this time we want to find the model stock dollar that we can allot to size 16, next size 16, color number 7, and with long sleeves. Okay, and the unit cost price, average unit cost is the same as what was in the previous question, $10.50. So let's first find out how many dollars we can spend for this SKU, and that converts to how many units. Alright, so size 16 was 22% of the total assortment, and color 7 was 10%, long sleeve is 82.5%. So you time the open to buy at cost for the entire open to buy by the string of percentages, and that gives us $101.82 as the budget that we can spend for buying the merchandise for this SKU. Okay. And if you divide that by $10.50, which is the average unit cost, and that gives us 9.7 units. Okay, so the total of 9.7 units that we can buy for this SKU. So overall, this means that for this SKU, we are going to be able to spend a total of $101.82, and which kind of is about 10 units or 9.7 units. Alright, so far we have taken a look at how to do assortment planning for fashion merchandise, and we specifically took a look at the two-step procedure. First, you create the model stock plan, and then you work on the assortment distribution plan for each assortment factor. And given these two, the model stock plan and assortment distribution plan, we can finally calculate the volume that we can spend for each specific SKU. Alright, so this concludes this module, and please work on the module problem assignment number 23. And thanks for listening. Bye.